Vice President Kamala Harris insists there should be a third presidential debate.
2 nights ago, Donald Trump and I had our debate. You watched it? Did you watch it? And look, I believe we owe it to have another debate. Right? We owe it to the voters.
But former President Trump says he is done debating.
When a prize fighter loses a fight, you've seen a lot of fights, right? The first words out of that fighter's mouth is, I want a rematch, I want a rematch. And that's what she said, I want a rematch. Polls clearly show that I won the debate against Comrade Kamala Harris. But she immediately called for a second debate, which means that she was like a prize fighter that lost a fight. We had 2 debates, though. I had a debate with crooked Joe Biden, right? And I had another debate with her. There will be no third debate. It's too late anyway. The voting's already begun.
And controversy is following Tuesday's showdown. Pollster and former Clinton strategist Mark Penn says ABC News should do a full investigation into the debate.
I actually think they should do a full internal investigation, hire an outside law firm. I don't know how much of this was planned in advance. I don't know what they told the Harris campaign. I think that the day after suspicion here is really quite high, and I think that I think a review of all their internal texts and emails it really should be done by an independent party to find out to what extent they were planning on in effect, fact-checking just one candidate and in effect rigging the outcome of this debate. And I think this situation demands nothing less than that.
And he's a Democrat. Look, there was something that opened my eyes this morning, Ainsley, from the LA Times, and it is about the preparation that David Muir did for the debate along with his co-moderator. And this is what they said. With co-moderator David Muir, Davis, that's Lindsay Davis, had studied hours of campaign rallies and interviews to prepare for the much anticipated event at Philadelphia's National Constitution Center, and were ready to counter the candidates' most egregious statements. I mean, one candidate's, we should say. The decision to attempt to correct the candidates was in response to the June 27th CNN debate between Trump and President Biden, whose poor performance led to his exit from the race. When I read that, I hear, in other words, Trump trounced Joe Biden. That can never happen again. And therefore, we are going to watch Trump rallies, not both, to check one candidate.
Exactly. That's what I heard, too. So first of all, I don't blame Donald Trump. He already did the debate in June 27th. He did the one on ABC last week on the 10th. He said he'd do the Fox News debate at the beginning of September. Yep. Kamala said no, so he did a town hall with Sean Hannity instead. So he still came on. She didn't show up. So I don't blame him. He's done 2 debates already, just with 2 different candidates. And he says, I'm done. And he says his internal polling is saying that it didn't move the needle for Kamala Harris, and it did for him. So he says, I don't need to do this. But I agree with you. It was plural. David Muir and Lindsay Davis said, we were ready to counter the candidates, plural, most egregious statements. But they didn't counter Kamala's egregious statements. Here's where she lied. She talked about the Heritage Foundation care. You know he wasn't involved in that. That was, she called it Trump's Project 2025. She said that several times. Said he supports an abortion ban. That was sent back to the states. He's not banning abortions. Ban on IVF. He knows that a lot of women rely on IVF, or men too, to start a family. He never said this. Then she said Trump's going to cut Medicare. Not true. Said that Trump supports a national sales tax. Not true. There were dozens of lies that she said, and not once was she fact-checked.
That is so well said. I mean, Todd, if you watched both candidates' debates, you would have seen Kamala give the IVF lie. You would have seen Kamala give the lie about a national abortion ban, and you would have fact-checked it. So Lindsay Davis, David Muir, you didn't watch Kamala's debate, and if you did, you made a concerted decision not to check her.
I have a contrarian view on this.
Oh, I want to hear this.
You ready for this?
I'm not ready for this.
Does ABC News really care if they are considered biased with regard to this debate?
No.
Hear me out on this. The debate was one night. David Muir, one of the hosts of the debate, his show, since Kamala Harris became the nominee for the Democrats, has had 100% positive coverage for Kamala, 93% negative for Trump. And oh, by the way, his show at 6:30 p.m. World News Tonight is #1 in the ratings. So, does he risk losing his core audience, or does he double down on the anti-Trumpness? Because clearly his audience loves anti-Trump. Let's say Muir and Davis were right down the middle and did the fact check that a good moderator would have done. It's not like at 6:30, the Fox audience is going to be like, forget Bret Baier. I'm going to flip it on over to David Muir. That's not going to happen. So there was nothing to gain for them by doing their jobs the right way. It's a perverse incentive, Kayleigh, but they did it for the business. And I think at the end of the day, I'm curious to see what happens over the next month with ABC's ratings. Did they steal from MSNBC? Did they steal from the other far left networks at 6:30? Going to be curious to see.
Yeah, they're partisan activists, and I don't think they care being portrayed as such. You know, Emily, moving this forward to a third debate. Before the cameras even shut down, like the lights were still bright in Philadelphia, and Kamala Harris's campaign team was already out on Twitter saying we want another debate. Politico Playbook has a wise nugget today. They say generally a front runner is keen to sit on his or her lead, and as 2 extra debates, the lagging candidate is often looking for more opportunities to break through and advocates for more confrontation. In other words, if Kamala was such a front runner, she wouldn't be asking for more debates.
Right. Look, we see it with children, right? Every time I get up to softball, when I strike out, I want to get up and, right, you want to redeem yourself. When I hit a home run, then I'm like, I'm cool. I'll sit the rest out. You want to retire after the Super Bowl. It's such clear strategy. It's such clear analysis of the behavior. And I think what's so fascinating for Americans to see is that night of polish, the veneer, helped in part, of course, by the 100% positive ratings and the zero fact-checking, is look at her after that on the rally. We reverted back to the cackling. We reverted back to the zero substance. For some reason, she sort of put on the cape of, I got this, I understand the assignment, but everyone sees through that night and since that there is no substance. So the other irony is that while she's calling for another debate, Americans have been calling for policy. Americans have been calling for articulation, and more fundamentally, they've been calling for a restoration of the time when President Trump was president, because that's when we had more on our kitchen tables, we had more in our wallets, we had more safety and security on the streets. So she can call for as much as she wants, but I think it's also important strategically that President Trump keeps saying there's not going to be a third one, because the campaign for Kamala keeps saying second. But no, he's already put in his 2 because it was Joe Biden.
Yeah, and Kara, here's the case for not doing a third debate. This is the Real Clear Politics national average. And what you see here is Kamala with a 1.5% lead. But when you compare that to Biden, he had a 7.4% lead at this point in 2020. She is way behind. So why give her airtime? Why give her millions of voters' eyeballs on an unfair debate stage? Now, a Fox News debate would be different. That would be fair. But why go into NBC or CNN or these unfair places?
No, I think that's totally right, especially after witnessing the pile-on. It was 3-on-1. We all saw it on Tuesday night. I don't know, maybe Kamala's looking for another Taylor Swift-esque endorsement since Taylor endorsed her during the debate. But, you know, as you said, when you win the Super Bowl, you retire. You don't immediately jump up and ask for another one. And if we think about why these debates exist in the first place, if we're keeping a veneer of, you know, working on behalf of the American people, you gotta hold these people's feet to the fire. I mean, the pitiful policies of the Biden-Harris administration, 10+ million illegal immigrants coming across the border, at its height, over 9% inflation. American interests are being attacked all across the globe. As people have said before, the world is on fire. They had a duty to talk to Kamala Harris about that, because remember, she's styling herself the change agent. And the best thing I've seen so far is you're not a change agent because you had 3.5 years in office to actually make this change and help America. If Trump wanted to destroy America, he would have done so in his first term. If Kamala wanted to change America, she would have done so in the last 3.5 years. Come on, we haven't seen it.
And to your point, I wish they would have asked her, at any point during this administration, have you stood up to President Biden and said, no, Mr. President, in the Situation Room as the last person in the room before Afghanistan, did you tell him no? I believe the answer to that is no.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.